Mm-hmm. What's up, everybody? This is Farmer Tim here. Welcome to the TheOduroProject. Today we're going to be doing a little garden tour. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about succession planting, all the different crops that we got going on in the garden. Hopefully it won't be too long of a video, but you know, come on in. Oh, shout out to Abigail for the camera. Appreciate you. Shout out to Abigail for doing the, film. Appreciate that. So the first thing we're going to talk about are our cabbages and broccoli and kohlrabi. They're over here to my left, and they have been doing great so far this year. As you can see, they're starting to get bigger, almost to the stage. The cabbages are starting to get bigger, almost to the stage where they're starting to ball up. So maybe in the next month or so we'll harvest them. The broccoli have already started to form heads, and so we've already harvested 2 of them, and hopefully we'll get the other 4 out of the ground soon as well. And then the kohlrabi over here, they are a really interesting plant. We grew them maybe like 10 years ago or so, and they bulb up and they taste a little bit like a radish. This is an early purple Vienna variety, and so I'm trying it out for the first time in about 10 years, and it's been good so far. Succession planting real quick. In this patch over here, something's really cool is that what we're going to be planting next is actually already in the ground here. So all these plants will come out within the next month, and then this whole area will be just open. I have 4 different spots that I've planted watermelon, and the watermelon, after the kohlrabi, the broccoli, and the cabbages come out, will take over the whole area. We have Crimson Sweet and a Blacktail Mountain, I think it's called. The Blacktail Mountain one is 70 days, and so that one will be done by August or so, August, September. The Crimson Sweet will hopefully get fruit from it, but if not, it's definitely an experiment to see what happens. All right, so we're gonna head down this way to the garden. If you notice on my right, there are also carrots. These carrots have been in the ground pretty early as well, since end of March, and so they'll be done in the next maybe month or 2. We continuously sow carrots so that we can get a harvest throughout the season. So that's a really cool thing that you can do with carrots. Over here to my left, you will see these peas. These peas are nearly 6 feet tall. They're supposed to be about 6 to 8 feet tall, which is kind of wild. And you can see how large these pods get. These pods are actually good to eat, like whether they are this small over here or if they are this small, you can eat them raw. They are really sweet. I'll actually pick one right now. They're really sweet, crunchy, and just fantastic. They're actually my favorite crop in the garden so far this season. Mostly because I can just come in here and snack and eat like this, like, so sweet, so succulent. That's truly just beautiful right there. I don't even know. We also have these other peas over here to my right. So these peas down here are a different variety. They only get maybe 2 to 3 feet tall, and they actually pod up, and so you'll see like they get much rounder and bigger. They're also a great pea as well. I know we use them in stir fries. We use both of these in stir fries, and so the shorter pea is actually sweeter, a little sweeter, tastes like candy, but all of them are great. Okay, so I'm standing right here in the middle of our tomato patch. We grow a lot of tomatoes. My parents are originally from Ghana, and so our diet consists of, like, in terms of the food that we cook, it uses a lot of tomatoes, a lot of onions, a lot of eggplants, and some okra as well. We have all of those things growing in the garden, and we actually will grow so much of each one of them that we're able to store it and save it during the year. So we have a bunch of different varieties of tomatoes in here. Some of them are more like a beefsteak variety. Some of them are a grape variety or a plum variety. We also have some cherry tomatoes. We have a purple cherry tomato that's really sweet. Next, we're going to be moving to our garlic. So the garlic is over here. Garlic is a really cool plant. We actually plant it in October, and then we will harvest it this garlic is all hardneck variety, which means it has like a hard neck. It's in the name. And we'll harvest this in actually about 2 weeks. So the garlic, once it comes out of the ground, we'll have all of this space open so that means we're gonna have to plant something in it. We have a blue Hubbard squash that we're gonna be planting in here. We're also gonna try and plant some corn with the blue Hubbard squash, a little bit of some companion planting, and I'll talk a little bit about intercropping / companion planting over when we get to the sweet potatoes as well. The other crop, so garlic, onions, leeks, they're all in the family, the plant family called alliums. And so our other allium crop that we have growing right now are actually our onions. As you can see, we have a lot of onions. We have all different varieties of onions, a yellow onion, a red onion, some long storage onions, because we can plant our onions in early March or late March, and then we can have it all the way, and then we'll harvest them in June, July, probably July, and then we will actually use our last onion in next March. And so we're able to really store a lot of onions. We don't have to go to the store and buy them, which is a great thing for being sustainable as well. I'm gonna have to dip, so we're gonna do a little bit of this garden tour vlog style. I just want to talk to y'all about the legumes that we have in the garden. So legumes are nitrogen fixing plants, meaning that they take nitrogen that's in the air and then they put it into the soil via photosynthesis and the rhizomes and their roots. And so we have a bunch of different legumes in the garden. The peas that I showed you earlier, those are nitrogen fixing. But the other ones I want to highlight are beans. So we have an Italian bean, I think they're called borlotti. It's kind of an experiment this year and my dad wanted to try out, so we're trying those. We also actually are planting some peanuts. That's just like an experiment as well, because why not? We'll see what happens with that. And then we also have our two varieties of bush beans. So we have our green beans, which are just regular green beans, and then we have our yellow wax beans, and those are bush beans. And then lastly, we have our pole beans, which are green beans, but they'll climb along our fence. So we have that around the garden. The really cool thing that we're doing with our beans, especially the bush beans and the pole beans, is that you're able to have a harvest at different times of the year. So our bush beans we'll start harvesting those earlier, maybe the next 2 weeks, and then the pole beans will be a little later, and then so maybe in a month, and they will give us a longer harvest until the end of the season in September. So that way you're able to spread out your harvest, and so you can get a continual amount of beans throughout the whole season, which is really cool. Starting off with our root vegetables, I'll start with beets. We already talked a little bit about carrots over there, but we also have some beets growing. I've never grown beets before. I'm not sure if I like them, but my neighbors were saying you can roast them. I also know Black Girl Juicing, shout out to Princess. She uses them in a bunch of different juices and whatnot, so that's definitely something I'll try out as well. Other root vegetables, the ones that I really like, we're really a big fan of, are potatoes. So our potatoes are right over here. These ones are second earlies. They're Yukon Golds in a red variety called, I think, Red Rosa. I'm not positive, but we'll actually be harvesting these potatoes in about a month. And then our other potato patch, we actually will, those are what you call our main crop potato variety, and those potatoes will be going till the end of the year. So we'll harvest them in maybe September or October. Alright, the next crop we're going to talk about are the sweet potatoes. So the sweet potatoes are right over here to my left. They're intercropped with the corn. So as you see in the video, you see that the corn it's one row of corn, and then sweet potato, another row of corn, and then sweet potato, and then corn again. And the reason I'm doing that is to maximize space. Yes, I have a big garden, but I have a lot of different types of plants, as you can see, that I want to get in. And we want to make sure that we can maximize the space that we have. So the corn will grow up into the air, maybe 6-7 feet tall, and then the sweet potatoes will cover the ground, which does two things. First, they're taking up the ground space, which is great. That means that we're actually going to utilize the under storage. but then also the leaves, if there are leaves on the ground, they're actually gonna keep moisture in the garden and keep moisture so that the corn will actually have more moisture instead of it going out into the air. So hopefully they'll benefit each other in that way, and we'll be able to get a great harvest of sweet potatoes and corn. Okay, so I quickly want to highlight our okra and eggplants. I talked about them earlier, that they're one of the main crops that we grow in addition to the tomatoes, the onions, garlic, and potatoes as well, especially for my parents and what they use a lot of. And so our okra, we have, I think, 3 different varieties of okra. There's one that grows up to 7 feet tall, which is kind of crazy to me. Then we have a red stemmed a red variety, Jing okra, and then we have a Clemson variety as well. The eggplants that we're growing are actually not your typical purple eggplant. They're a Ghanaian variety that we were lucky enough to get seeds here in the States. And so my parents, they love these eggplants. They'll can them, they'll put them away for the season, they're able to use them. I think we have some cans that are even like a year or 2 old, which is great for sustainability once again. But they are about the size of an egg. And then they are also white, and so like my dad loves to say, like, this is like really where the name eggplant comes from. Alright y'all, so the last group of vegetables I want to talk about are leafy greens. So when you think leafy greens, you think about maybe your spinaches, your lettuces, pak choy, those, collard greens, kale, those type of things. And a lot of leafy greens, you need to grow them in cool weather. So we have our cool weather ones that are kind of done, they're petering out, and then we have the warmer weather ones that are starting to come into shape right now. So the first ones I'll talk about are spinach and lettuce. So we grew spinach and lettuce early in the year. The lettuce is still here. The spinach has all been taken out, but we planted that back in March, and then now we had a long harvest till now. And then after that, the next group of greens that we have coming in are pak choy. I actually was harvesting some pak choy today, but I actually had 2 sowings of pak choy. One that I grew and I picked maybe a month ago, and then this next sowing of pak choy that I grew today, I put the seeds in the ground when I was picking the first sowing. So I knew that I would have this second crop of pak choy that I knew would bolt or go to flower when it got really hot, but that would have something that I wanted like just before the summer when I can't grow it again till the fall. So that's a really good way to to kind of space out your leafy greens that way. And then the other types of greens that you have are what they would call your cut and come again greens. The ones that if you cut them multiple times and they'll come again, literally cut and come again. So that's like your Swiss chard. We have collard greens. We have komatsuna, which is a really cool green that actually is similar to spinach. Apparently, I've never grown it before, but it's similar to spinach, and it does really, really well in the heat. So if you can find greens that can do well in the cool temperatures and also in the heat, it will allow you to have nutritious greens all the way through the season. And that's what we're trying to do here as well. I forgot to talk about this actually. So in our onions, we have a really cool intercropping going on there, or succession cropping, I should say. So after the onions come out in about a month's time, we're actually going to be having butternut squash in here. So the butternut squash are actually already in the onions themselves, and so they will take over this entire area once the onions come out in about a month's time. Hey y'all, so that's been the June garden tour. Really appreciate y'all watching the whole thing and getting through to this point. If you have any questions, any suggestions for me, please feel free to hit me up. I'm always down to give out advice about the garden, and if you want me to make a video about one particular crop that we're growing and just talk all about it and make that maybe a 5-minute video, I'm down to do that for sure. Just let me know. Yeah, appreciate y'all for watching once again. And I'll hopefully be making some more videos about harvesting potatoes soon, maybe the garlic as well. But yeah, stay blessed, stay safe out there, and I'll talk to y'all later.